because this is a very important video. I'm not going to waste your time with a stupid intro with fancy graphics and music like so many other YouTubers do. I understand that your time is very valuable. So I'm going to keep this video short and to the point. Today I'm going to compare 3 GMRS mobile radios. I've already done reviews of each one of these radios, full reviews. They go into more detail than this video will go into. In this video, I'm going to compare some of the pros and cons of each of these 3 radios. Those 3 radios are the KG-1000G from Wouxun, the BTech GMRS 50X1 from BTech, aka Baofeng, and the Radioddity DB20G. I'll put links to each of the full reviews so you can watch those in their entirety if you need more information. But in this video, I'll just be going over the pros and cons, some of the features and issues with each of the radios, so that if you are looking for a new GMRS mobile radio, maybe this video will help you decide which is best for you and your very dynamic lifestyle. All 3 of these radios are FCC Part 95E compliant. For use on GMRS, you do need a GMRS license to use any of these 3 radios if you're going to be transmitting on them. If you're just listening, you don't need a license. If you do not yet have your GMRS license, there's a link right here to my website with step-by-step instructions on how to buy your GMRS license, step-by-step, including pictures for those that are alphabetically challenged or just plain stupid. To be fair, the FCC website is not very user-friendly. It's not easy to maneuver, so those instructions will guide you through how to buy your GMRS license. No test, just fork over some money to the FCC so that you can then use our free airwaves. So of the radios I'll be going over today, the KG-1000G was sent to me by buy2wayradios.com. Radioddity sent me the DB20G just a few weeks ago for a review, and even though I paid for this particular BTech GMRS 50X1 that I'll be showing you, BTech did send me a review unit before I bought this one for myself. So you are now fully disclosed, or I'm disclosed. There has been disclosure. I'm going to go over the radios in order of price, low to high, because when some people ask, what is the best GMRS radio? What they really mean to say is, what is the cheapest possible thing I can buy to talk on GMRS? So we'll start at low, we'll go to high. That way, if the only thing you care about is price, we'll get that out of the way first. All 3 of the radios support split tones, and all 3 support wideband and narrowband and are switchable between the 2. Most people don't even understand what narrowband is. Maybe I should do a video on explaining narrowband versus wideband. It would be a very short video. The range on all 3 of these radios is very similar. You're going to get in open areas 25 to 50 miles. Where I live, I have trouble even getting far enough away to get out of range because I've got mountains within 10 or 20 miles of me in any direction. Now, where you live, your terrain may be different. If you've got high mountains all around you or lots of trees and forests and big buildings, the range will be much less. Your range will vary. You don't need to leave a comment explaining what I just said. My point is that all the radios are basically equal in range. One doesn't have a significantly longer range than the others. One of the radios is lower powered than the other 2, and that will make some difference, but it's not a huge difference. So if you're looking for the longest range radio, they're pretty much the same. So the first radio that we're going to look at is the Radioddity. It's this one, the DB20G. I did a full review of the DB20G just a few weeks ago. You can watch that review right there. The DB20G costs $129. It is an SoC, a system on a chip type radio, which means the entire radio is basically on one little chip. That's common in most of the lower priced radios. That generally means that they're not as sensitive as some of the better quality radios in receiving. Transmitting is not as pure and clean, and in most cases it means the squelch does not work very well. The advertisements say that the DB20G is a 20-watt radio. However, when you look at the specifications, it says 18 watts, not 20 watts. And the testing that I did in my review and other tests, I only get about 15 watts out of it. The DB20G can store up to 500 additional channels of receiving only for monitoring ham, NOAA, that kind of thing. In addition to the 8 repeater channels that all GMRS radios store, the DB20G can store 9 additional repeater channels, same as the first ones, but with different tones. This causes much confusion every time I mention that, so let me explain what that means. All GMRS radios have 8 repeater channels if it's a repeater-capable radio. Most repeaters require a tone or a set of tones so that you can talk to it. You program that into the radio. It's very easy. So I'm at home. I'm talking on my neighborhood repeater. It's on repeater channel 5, and it uses tone 141.3. Now, when I drive away, when I go off-roading, adventuring, hiking, paintballing, skydiving, let's imagine there's another repeater, same channel, but with a different tone. Well, now what do? In many radios, you would have to go to that repeater channel 5 and then go into the programming and change the tone to whatever the tone is at that other repeater. That can be a pain, especially if you're doing it when you're trying to drive. The DB20G allows you to have 9 more channels that share the same frequency as, say, your home repeaters, but with different tones. When you start using repeaters, that will all make sense. The DB20G allows you to listen to 2 frequencies at the same time. So, for example, I've got 462, 725, that's a GMRS frequency. You can also set it to show the channel name instead. And then you can see down below, it's also monitoring 145, 000. So it's listening to both of those frequencies at the same time. You can turn that option on or off because it can get confusing. The screen is fairly small, not too large, but it does show the main channel and information in a large enough font so that it's easy to read from far away. And it's got a very wide viewing angle. It has a very loud speaker, so it's good in the car, or if you're in a noisy Jeep like I usually am. Probably one of the best features is that it has a cigarette lighter plug, so that you don't need to permanently mount it. You can just stick it into your cigarette lighter, put a magnetic mount antenna on your roof, and you're good to go. If you want to mount it permanently, you get your wire cutters and clip that off and mount it the way you would any other radio. I'll put a link to this 12-volt power supply. This is a great little thing. It's a power brick with a 12-volt plug there. Affiliate link below. The microphone is multifunctional. It is a bit plasticky and cheap feeling, but this is the least expensive of all the radios. And although you can do some or much of the programming on the microphone itself, you still need to touch the buttons on the radio in some cases for programming. It's got a channel up and down button, your push to talk, otherwise a basic, pretty much your standard basic microphone. The display has both helpful and confusing information. It's got your voltage input there. Again, the main frequency or channel, you can switch it to show the channel or the frequency, and the second channel or frequency that you're monitoring down below. It has a power meter for when you're transmitting and receiving, so it will indicate your output power strength and the power level of the signal that you're receiving. The one thing, very important thing, that this radio has that no other radio has is the fun button. They could have called this a function button or a menu button. Instead, they decided to call it a fun button. That alone makes it worth $129. Some of the pros of the DB20G are that it is very small. For the exact dimensions, watch my other full review, because I don't remember right now. It has a good loud speaker. That is a surprisingly loud speaker for how small it is. As I mentioned, you can plug it directly into the cigarette lighter, which for many people is very important. This is the only radio that I'm aware of that comes with that sort of a 12-volt connector. The DB20G comes with the cable that you need to program it on the computer. On most other radios, you have to buy that cable separately. And the biggest drawback, other than it just being an inexpensive, lower quality type radio, is that the user guide is junk. So that is the Radioddity DB20G, $129. Next on our list is the BTech GMRS 50X1 50-watt mobile radio. The price is $219. It is also an SoC, a system on a chip, where the entire radio is on a single chip. The specs say that it is a 50-watt radio, but in my testing, I was never able to get more than about 30 watts out of it. When I contacted BTech support, they said that was because I wasn't using a dummy load to measure, because I usually measure through my antenna. But when I measure all of my other radios through the antenna, they all get 50 watts. So now I've had the GMRS 50X1. I've actually had two of them for over a year now. One of them is mounted in my wife's Jeep. The other one I gave to a friend. She's now using it. She's been using it for several months now. They're both still running strong, and with no issues. And I mention this because I see a lot of comments on YouTube from people saying that they used theirs for a week and it died, and they had this problem, they had that problem. We've been using two for over a year, every weekend going out, talking on them all day, off-roading, and we have had no problems. So if you see comments on reviews of the GMRS 50X1 saying that it died after a few weeks, it's probably because they had a high SWR, and that will kill any radio. Mine are still going strong. Now, as I mentioned, I've had two of these. One a friend is now using. The other one is mounted in my wife's Jeep. And because I didn't want to unmount the 50X1 from my wife's Jeep, actually, I didn't want to listen to her complaining. I'll have to show you some photos and stock B-roll footage while I talk about the radio. I did pull out the microphone, though, because that simply unplugs, and I didn't have to unscrew anything or take half her Jeep apart to get it out. If you're married, you'll understand. The BTech, which is basically a Baofeng, sold through the North American distributor, BTech. Like other GMRS radios, the BTech GMRS 50X1 has 22 regular GMRS channels and 8 repeater channels. The 50X1 can store up to 226 additional channels for receiving only, NOAA channels, ham radio, UHF frequencies, that sort of thing, so you can listen to and store up to 226 channels. The 50X1 does not allow you to store multiple repeaters on the same frequency with different tones, like the DB20G can. The GMRS 50X1 allows you to monitor up to 4 frequencies at the same time for double the confusion of most other radios. And you can see the screen is kind of small and very crowded. There's a lot of stuff on this screen. This screen can be hard to read from more than just a foot or two away. Not my favorite screen. It is customizable. You can change some of the colors. But no matter what, it's still a very busy and difficult to read screen. You can fully program it from the microphone. You don't need to touch the radio. The microphone is decent quality, but it is still plastic. Audio is good. The speaker is nothing spectacular. The best thing that I like about the BTech is that it has a microphone gain feature that allows you to reduce the background noise. You can lower the gain and you're not getting all of the background noise. It's one of the features that I wish many other radios had. Overall, a decent radio, although for the price compared to the DB20G, I'm not sure of the value, especially considering that on mine, I'm not able to get a full 50 watts out of it or even close when compared to and measured the same way as I measure all of my radios. Okay, now let's get to my favorite, the Wouxun KG-1000G, available only at bytworadios.com. As I've said many times in many videos, the KG-1000G is my favorite radio. It is what I have in my Jeep. It is what I replaced my BTech 50X1 with. You can see the full review of the KG-1000G here. The price of the KG-1000G is $369. In my opinion, it is worth every penny, and maybe even a few pennies more. It is a very popular radio. If you go to bytworadios.com and it says it's out of stock, do not wait. If you wait, you will never get one. Put your order in, buy it, get on the list. As they receive more in, they will ship yours out. If you wait until you see it saying in stock, you're never going to get it. The KG-1000G is not an SoC. It does not have a system on a chip. It uses the more classic style super heterodyne circuitry. That's what the higher quality radios use. That means it costs more. It also means it's more sensitive. It transmits a more pure signal with less spurious RF emissions. And for me, in my use, it means the squelch actually works. The squelch works noticeably better than the BTech or the DB20G. When I'm driving through an area and my wife is right behind me in her Jeep, She's picking up all kinds of noise and static. Even though her squelch is turned up all the way, my squelch, I generally have it set at 5 or 6, and I'm not hearing any of that noise. The KG-1000G is a 50-watt radio, and in my tests, in my full review, you'll see that I think it was actually outputting 48 watts right where it should be.
Channel mode.
You can store up to 999 channels, for example, ham, NOAA, all VHF frequencies, for receiving or transmitting. So if you store additional GMRS frequencies, for example, with different tones, you can transmit on those, but it does not allow you to transmit on ham or anything outside of the GMRS band because it is a GMRS-only radio. You can very easily connect the KG-1000G to another KG-1000G and create a repeater. I've actually done this. You can watch how I did that here. It's a great feature, especially if you're out adventuring somewhere, camping, and you've got a friend who happens to have a KG-1000G in their vehicle. You use the cable that comes with it. Forgot the cable. Comes with a 15-foot cable that you can use to string between the two radios, and boom, you've got a repeater. You will need to read the instructions on how to do it. You don't just plug them in and they start working. It takes 2 minutes of configuration. KG-1000G allows you to monitor 2 channels at the same time.
0, 0, 2.
Channel 1, channel 2. It has dual volume controls, so you can have channel 1 up real high and channel 2 even higher. It's got 2 speakers, and they are quite loud, good for most vehicles. It has buttons on the top. You've got your power on and off button. I actually had somebody leave a comment on one of my videos on the KG-1000G. They could not figure out how to turn it off and on. They complained that there was no way to turn it on or off other than disconnecting it from the power. I pointed out that had they read the manual, they would see the big red on-off button. 3 buttons that you can program. I have mine programmed so that A adjusts my squelch, B allows me to set my power level, and C allows me to turn on or off that second channel. As I've mentioned, monitoring 2 channels at the same time can be confusing. It's hard to listen to and talk to 2 people at the same time, so I'll turn off the second channel and just listen to the one, but there are times when I want to listen to 2 channels. It's got a large, easy-to-read screen. It's not cluttered. It's not got a bunch of useless information. Very easy to read from a distance. And the KG-1000G has what I think is the most important, most valuable feature that a radio could have. I don't know of any other radios that do this. This faceplate is removable. It is tight, but that faceplate comes off. It has this little 3 or 4 inch cable, but using the cable that comes with it, this is the same one that you would use for a repeater. You plug that into the back and there. You can use this cable to then mount this faceplate anywhere in your vehicle that you want. So for my Jeep, I have the faceplate mounted up above where I can see it easily, and the chassis is just thrown under the seat. That feature alone, this right here, makes it worth the $370 that they charge. It comes with a couple of different little back plates that mount on here so that you can mount it either at a flat angle or a slight tilt, like tilting down or up at you. That's what differentiates a $200 radio or a $100 radio from a $370 radio. May not be worth it to you. If you've got a large, spacious, luxurious dashboard in your vehicle, you may not care. I don't. I care. I just can't tell you how great that feature is. The microphone is plastic, feels about the same quality as the BTech, both of which are much better quality feeling than the Radioddity. You can do all of the programming and more from the microphone. You do not need to touch the radio at all for programming on the microphone. It has a lock button that allows you to lock the microphone so you can't accidentally key up. It has a light, I don't know if it shows, that you can turn off and on to illuminate the keys. And another great feature of this radio is that it has a speaker inside the microphone. So even though these are loud, when you throw this under your seat like I do, it might be a little bit far away. So you can put the microphone up to your ear and listen to the volume, and it has a separate volume control. It also has 2 speaker outputs, separate output for each channel that you're monitoring, because you've got 2 volume controls. So you can have 2 different speakers, control those volumes separately, or you can use a Y connector and just combine them into 1 speaker, which is what I do. As I mentioned, it's got up to 900 channels. That allows you to store as many repeater channels with different tones as you'd like, up to 900. You can also store regular simplex channels with different tones or privacy codes. Privacy codes are not private. If you think that privacy codes or privacy tones or subchannels are private or different channels, watch that video. They are not. So you can store multiple simplex channels with different tones, multiple repeaters with different tones. A very versatile radio. The KG-1000G is, in my opinion, the best, not only of these radios, but the best GMRS radio that you can buy. This is why I have the KG-1000G affiliate link below in my Jeep. My wife still has the BTech 50X1 in her Jeep. I said I would keep this video short and to the point. If you have questions about any one of these 3 radios, leave a comment below. I'll do my best to answer. If I'm not able to answer, somebody will come along and try. Bear in mind, they will probably get it wrong. Thank you for watching, and remember, no matter where you go,